security forces. But again, we have to see another group, which is a splinter group of Pakistan Taliban movement. They have also taken the responsibility, but the mainstream Taliban group said that they have no knowledge that any of its group was involved in this terrorist attack. It appears that there seems to be some sort of competition among these terror groups to take the credit of killing innocent people. We cannot say independently, we cannot verify as to who is behind that, but generally government's lines of action has been, as we have got some indications, that probably it is India which is behind violence in Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province.
Thank you. Javed Rana, correspondent there, talking to us from Islamabad. Finally, the UN voices alarm over reports that Myanmar's military forces have killed a large number of Rohingya Muslims in the country's northern Rakhine state. In a statement, the UN Special Rapporteur on Summary Executions urged Myanmar to undertake proper and thorough investigations of alleged violations. The statement added that reports of homes and mosques being burnt down and Rohingya Muslims rounded up and shot are, quote, alarming and unacceptable. According to the statement, the UN has received repeated allegations of arbitrary arrests and extrajudicial killings. Following several raids on police posts in early October, the Myanmar military launched a security crackdown in an area close to the Bangladesh border. The Rohingya Muslims face torture, neglect, and repression. They are known as one of the world's most persecuted minorities. Shabir Hassan Ali is a political commentator joining us from London. Not the first time, not the second time, repeated times, and this one, if these reports turned out to be true, it's indicating a large number of them have been actually rounded up and shot. There's got to be some way where the UN needs to either be proactive or hand this over to an entity, I'm not too sure who, maybe you can tell us, that is going to have influence with the governments not to do what it's doing to the world's most persecuted minorities.
Yeah, I mean, this is sadly the plight of the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar or Burma is something which has been going on for a very long time. And of course, anyone who sits down and investigates the whole situation can see that in its current form, it kicked off around 2012, which is a time when a lot of American oil and gas interests, discovered that in the Bay of Bengal, which is pretty much where the Rakhine state is, happens to have some huge untapped reserves of oil. And the government, along with its advisor, this peace-loving Aung San Suu Kyi, decided to allow things like that to happen, using excuses like, oh, Muslim power is terrible, Muslim power is frightening, and in a word, Islamophobia. So, I mean, the UN has known about this for years and years and years. There have been meetings and meetings and meetings, and like most places, unfortunately, the UN has lost any real legitimacy. All of its portions. I mean, the UN can't do anything because it's held to ransom by the veto powers, chief among them being America. It's also quite enlightening and interesting to know that Israel has been engaged in, quote, security cooperation with the regime in Myanmar. And of course, you know, there's a huge number of American companies that are now trying to find oil and digging for oil and gas in the Bay of Bengal. And so it stands to reason that the powers that be, the neocons, the Zionists, that are ultimately attempting to control things, they will make sure that Muslims are not there, because the Muslims, while they're a minority, they're a strategically located minority all along the border region, the coastal region. And that's where they've been killed. You know, there's this Islamophobia thing going on where, oh my God, these poor Muslims, they're going to kill everyone. And at the same time, you've got an entire world, a right-wing, psychotic world that is busy killing Muslims, portraying Muslims as psychopaths in the name of entities, Zionist entities like Daesh and Al-Qaeda and whatever these other groups are called today. So this is a mess. Now, in terms of who can resolve it, really, I don't believe currently the will exists in the world to resolve it, in the powers of the world. But if the government of Myanmar actually cares about the country, then it needs to bring to justice these monks and these military guys who have been committing this terror, and this peace-loving Aung San Suu Kyi needs to really turn around and earn that Nobel Prize that she won for allegedly being a peace activist, and not turn around and allow the blood of the Muslims in Myanmar, the Rohingya Muslims, who are an extremely, like you said rightly, an extremely oppressed and dispossessed minority. If they don't, then they have lost all legitimacy. Maybe, and this is something which I'm not sure how much effect this will have, but maybe groups like the Organization for Islamic Conference or Cooperation needs to step in and say, look, hold on a minute. But sadly, the problem we've got with the OIC is a number of entities within the OIC, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, Saudi, so-called Arabia. These are all Zionist front people. They don't care about Islam. They're just there because they happen to have a Muslim name and, appear to be so-called Muslim. They're all Zionists at the end of the day. They don't care about Muslims. I think the best approach would be if the people of the world, the actual free people of the world, everywhere across the world, go away and start lobbying oil companies. Tell oil companies that, look, you're digging in Myanmar, people are being killed in Myanmar, we're going to start picketing you, we're going to start boycotting you, we're going to start making trouble for you, hassling you, writing letters to your CEOs saying that you're complicit in bloodshed by having a subsidiary that is registered maybe out of Singapore or China, but that is actually an American entity that is digging for oil over there. And it's only through grassroots activity that I believe anything is going to happen, because unfortunately the powers that be today, I mean, you can see it, the American election is being contested by two psychopaths, neither of which has any real concern for the people. So to expect an entity like the United Nations, which is so compromised and corrupt, to actually care about the Rohingyas without, it has to make, for the sake of posterity, it has to make the odd statement here and there, but history will see, 100 years in the future, whenever all of this corruption is gone, the people will look back at this age and say that humanity had gone completely insane and stopped being human during this age, unfortunately.
We appreciate that. Political commentator Shabir Hassan Ali there talking to us from London.